Hello and welcome back to Felony Spectator. I am your host, Heather. Today is just a quick update on the Johnny Cashman Jr. case. It seems as though it's basically been closed now and charges are not going to be put forward as per a notice released by the Commonwealth's attorney for the city of Lynchburg. The release says that they've reviewed video footage, crime scene reports, and photos, as well as Johnny's medical records provided by Johnny's family. All of that information is in the episode we did a few weeks back. If you need to refresh your memory, I will link it below. What we didn't see in any of the original footage made public was that Johnny had left around 1 p.m. with a garbage bag, his backpack, and a full glass of whatever he was drinking. He then returns around 3:30 with his backpack, an empty glass, and without the garbage bag. And I guess they're assuming whatever was in that glass was alcohol. The report also shows what Stephen Church told police after they located him. It goes on to say that Stephen came to Lynchburg, Virginia for work, but that job fell through. He then had no money or anywhere to stay, so he asked around and Johnny allowed him to stay with him. He stayed for about 3 days and Johnny drank every day. Stephen realized that Johnny was a drunk, according to Stephen. Now, the day of the incident, Johnny had come home and started yelling at Stephen for not paying rent and going through his clothes. Now, Stephen had 2 charges on his criminal record and decided to leave because he didn't want to get in any more trouble. One of the biggest questions we had was, why did Stephen wipe his prints off the door handle? Well, he says it's because of the 2 charges. Again, he didn't want to get in trouble and didn't want to be charged with squatting. I don't know if that's a thing in Virginia. It really isn't here where I live. But let's say Johnny did call police because Stephen didn't pay rent for those 3 days. I doubt they would have arrested him for squatting, especially if he had already left. I feel like police also wouldn't take prints from a door handle to try and find a squatter. So not a great excuse in my opinion. Stephen Church explained that what we heard on the video was actually Stephen saying stop because Johnny was yelling about the clothes and the rent. Stephen also claims that they did not fight. When he left, Johnny was physically fine, but was leaning over the toilet as if he was going to throw up. To Stephen, this was normal because Johnny drank a lot. The crime scene analysts determined that everything they reviewed was consistent with a fatal medical event. And they confirmed that it's consistent with a gastrointestinal bleeding. Stephen's shoe prints also weren't evident in any of the blood, and there was no external injuries caused to Johnny, allegedly. And I say that word because an autopsy was never performed and Johnny has now been cremated. So there you have it. The case is basically closed and Johnny's death will not be looked into any further. My final thoughts? I don't think Stephen is telling the whole truth. What are the chances that he left seconds before Johnny suffered a major GI bleed? Stephen's story to me isn't consistent with what we've heard in that video. If Johnny walked in and started yelling at him about paying rent and clothes, why didn't we hear that? I feel like we should be hearing something more along the lines as, what are you still doing in here? Or get out of my apartment? Or you need to start paying rent if you want to live here. Or why the fuck did you go through my clothes? Or even, sorry, Johnny, I'll just leave then. Instead, all we hear is, what the fuck, man? And stop. And please stop. And all of this crashing and banging just sounds really sketchy. I'm leaning towards an altercation. Stephen had no job, no money, nothing. Maybe Stephen was waiting for Johnny to come home to rob him, steal his money or his wallet. Maybe he kicked him in the stomach or punched him, which triggered the GI bleed. Then Stephen gets out of there, wipes his prints not to be tied with the robbery or what Johnny was suffering from. That's my theory. Again, we will never know the truth because the case is closed. Your thoughts? Should Johnny's family keep pushing for answers? Do you think Stephen knows more, or was this just a coincidence that Johnny had a major medical event the same time Stephen left the apartment? Thanks for joining me here on our update. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you again soon.